My goodness, if I had $1 for every comment I've been getting lately on doing a video on Carnival Cruise Line, I would probably have enough money to like buy my own cruise ship. I don't know. Like, it's been ridiculous. So many comments from so many people about CCL. It's like every minute, do a video about CCL. We want to hear your opinion about CCL. And finally, 1 second ago, I said, you know what? I'm going to do a video about CCL, Carnival Cruise Line. Let's talk about this stock once and for all, which it's a painful stock for me to talk about. This is by far and away my worst investment of my life. Like it's not even close. And so it's not exactly a fun subject for me to talk about. But you know what? If the people want it, we're going to talk about it, okay? So smash the thumbs up button if you've been waiting for me to do this video, because I'm finally doing it for you guys, and it's a painful one to do, okay? So let's first start out by looking at Carnival stock price. It fell about $27 a share today, up about 16%. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong stock. Carnival Cruise Line here today fell about another 9.5%, okay? 9.5%. It's under $8 a share. Under $8 a share. $7.97. Pretty much the only situation that could have ever got this stock price to this price is the Roni situation. Literally, this is the only thing. Like if they had a ship that like ended like the Titanic and it went underwater, like even that wouldn't have brought the stock to $7.97. The only thing that could have got this stock to this price is the Roni situation, and that's just facts. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the stock chart of Carnival Cruise Line for the last 3 months. And you're going to see it was a $40, $50 stock. It was smooth sailing, no pun intended. And then some worries started about the Roni. We first found out about the Roni at some point in January, right? And at first it was like, like it wasn't even worth paying attention to. Then February rolls around, and then all of a sudden a little more talk about it. And then we hear about some cruise ships that might have the Roni situation going on. And then there starts to be a little bit of actual fear out there. And people start thinking, whoa, what could this be? What could this be? Could this be something that's really bad? By the time March hits, people start thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be bad. And next thing you know, there's no more cruises. No más cruises, okay? No more cruises. It's shut down, okay? It was pretty much the first industry to kind of shut down even before the restaurants and a lot of the hotels and things shut down. The cruises, they stopped going on cruises. They weren't allowed to go on cruises anymore. No more cruises, and that is what took this stock price down in a massive way. I mean, a massive way. And just look at that. I mean, that is pure and utter destruction. Like I said, there's nothing that could have happened to this company that could have brought this stock down that fast. Even if there was like some insider trading or some fraud, even if there was like some, fraud, which is a big term, even if there was fraud somehow, I don't even think the stock would have fell to $7.97. Literally, that's how bad, like the worst thing happened. The worst thing, literally. If we had a normal recession, stock's not trading at $7.97 today. I can guarantee you that, okay? Norwegian Cruise Line, they've also been hit. They're one of the other biggest players out there. Stock went from 50 plus, $54 a share. It's $8 here today. Royal Caribbean, that was another huge, or is it still a huge player in the cruise industry? They're pretty much the number 2 behind Carnival Cruise Line. And those 3 companies have like kind of, I don't want to say a monopoly on the industry, but they have a dominant market share of the entire cruise industry. And that stock went from $134 back in January to, here we are. It's $24 here today. So every single one of these stocks has been absolutely devastated in the worst way possible. Now, going into this, Carnival Cruise Line had over $500 million sitting around their balance sheet, which $500 million is fine in almost any type of normal situation. They were actually the best capitalized cruise company of the 3 big dogs. I looked into Norwegian Cruise Line when I was thinking about like a cruise line stock. These are big dividend payers, and you guys know I've been taking the dividend investing super serious in the back half of 2019, especially this year. And so I start looking into these sorts of cruise companies right before the Roni. Unfortunately, sometimes you're gonna have some really bad luck in this game when that's unfortunate, and we did in this situation. But when I looked in these companies, I looked at Norwegian Cruise Line, I looked at Royal Caribbean, and I looked at Carnival, and of those 3 companies, Carnival had the best capital position. They had the most cash on their balance sheet. And so in any type of normal situation, $500 million plus sitting around in cash is plenty. It's plenty. But unless a situation happens where your business goes to zero overnight, a super unrealistic scenario that never ever happens, regardless of pretty much anything that happens out there, unless your business, your entire entire worldwide international business, unless it goes to $0 overnight, $500 million is way more than you could ever need as a cruise company. But guess what happened? Their business went to zero. Okay, their business went to zero. I mean, let's imagine a horrible year for Carnival Cruise Line in 2020. Just a disaster where they're like, what happened to you guys? Okay, a horrible year for Carnival Cruise Line would be like them putting up like $14 billion in revenue and doing like $1.5 billion of net income. That would be a disaster. Okay, I mean, an absolute disaster in any normal scenario, because people would be like, what happened to you guys? Your net income fell 50%. Look at your revenue fell $7 billion year over year. What is the matter for you guys, right? But the only scenario that could be worse than that is $0, which is what their business is right now. They have $0 in revenue. They're making no money from cruises right now. It's a once in 100-year event happened, okay? Literally a once in 100-year event happened where their business had to be completely shut down, and it is still shut down. It probably will be shut down for, let's say, the next 1 to 2 months, and their revenues are zero, literally zeroed out right now. A once in 100-year event. Who could have predicted it? No one, okay? That is unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. I don't know what else to say other than that, okay? So then we go through all that situation, and the devastation has happened, and some people are wondering, will they get a bailout? Now, I always said, I doubt it, okay? I doubt they get a bailout, but it's a possibility they get a bailout. Why did I kind of have some thoughts that they probably won't get a bailout from the government? Well, because I know how these companies are incorporated, and they're not really U.S. companies. They're not. Carnival Cruise Line isn't really a U.S. company. Obviously, a lot of their executive team are Americans, and a lot of their high-ranking employees might be Americans, and a lot of their shareholders are Americans, but at the end of the day, Carnival Cruise Line isn't technically an American corporation. So, sure enough, the bailout comes, and they're not part of it. And not just Carnival, but I'm talking about all the cruise companies. None of them are part of that huge bailout. And, so it didn't really come as a surprise to me, because I always thought, if, in this situation over the last couple months, that Carnival could get through it based upon raising some money. And since they weren't going to get the bailout money, well, they're going to have to probably raise some money. I mean, the airlines, they're obviously getting bailout money because all these are U.S. companies, and almost all their employees are U.S. employees. So they're going to get a bailout. Even private jet companies, even U.S.-based private jet companies are likely going to get billions upon billions of dollars of federal aid, which is kind of hilarious, right? Who would think a private jet company would get federal aid? But you know what? They're even getting federal aid. Cruise companies, no such luck. So with a situation like this, where you have $500 million on the balance sheet and you have zero in revenue, you're going to have to raise some money. There's just no other way around it. You're going to have to raise some money. A normal recession scenario where business slowly starts to decline and they have less and less customers, that's very I don't want to say easy to navigate, but it's way easy compared to this situation where you go from, you have all this revenue and all these profits to zero overnight, and that's literally what happened. Extremely profitable business model, unbelievable revenues, to nothing overnight. That's incredible. It's like nothing we've ever seen in the stock market, and it's certainly not in modern history, and probably ever. It's absolutely extraordinary. So with the $500 million, gonna have to raise money. So just actually literally yesterday, they decided they're gonna go ahead and raise some money. So they raised essentially $6.25 billion of new debt and equity yesterday on Wednesday. And here's what it looked like. So Carnival priced $4 billion in bonds that are gonna mature in 2023, which was upsized from the $3 billion that was originally planned. So I would say in a situation like this, raise too much money versus not enough money. Because what happens if cruises aren't allowed to operate in a month from now or 2 months from now or something like that, right? So don't matter what, like just raise an extra billion in case you need it, okay? Raise an extra billion just in case you need it. Now the yield they have to pay on that is ridiculously high. 11.5%. That is unbelievably high, okay? Unbelievably high. But hey, when you're desperate, you got to do some desperate things, and Carnival has to do a desperate thing. And you know, they wanted the money, they got the money, they got $4 billion, but yeah, 11.5% you have to pay on that. That's rough, okay? Keep in mind, this is great. By comparison, Carnival paid 1% yield in October. Literally, what is that, 6 months ago? 7 months ago? They're paying a 1% yield, now they could do 11.5%. But that's the effects of the Roni right there. If you ever want to know the effects of the Roni, that's the effects of Roni. You go from 1% to 11.5%. Ridiculous, okay? Now the company also did another $1.75 billion in convertible notes, which have a 5.75% coupon as well, which is pretty dang, you know, pretty dang expensive. And lastly, which I didn't like this move, I thought it was a bad move, my personal opinion. I think this is a bad move. It's not like they got a lot of money from this, but they went ahead and issued new stock to raise another $500 million. So they raised another $500 million to issue new stock. And I think that was a bad decision. They did bring it down from, they were going to raise like 1.25 billion. I'm glad they only raised, you know, 500 million, and they issued that at $8 a share for a stock that was 53 months ago. A stock that was 53 months ago, they have to issue new shares at $8. I didn't really like the move, but hey, you know, 500 million is 500 million. I guess we can keep that 500 million, you know, dollars around. But essentially, if you're wondering why that's such a bad move, you never want to really like put new shares out there when you already have a lack of demand for your stock. And obviously with Carnival, there's a lack of demand for the stock as it is, right? It was bouncing back a bit last week, and now you put a bunch more shares out there. It's going to create even a bigger lack of demand for your stock, more shares out there. You want to do something like Tesla did. Elon Musk, the best money raiser in the history of mankind, right? Elon Musk, with obviously my Tesla company, right? He raises money when the stock's like $700+. That's the best time to raise money. He got another $200 billion plus when it was like 700 plus. And keep in mind, Tesla stock is definitely not $700 today. That was a great decision. You want to raise capital if you're talking about issuing new shares when your stock price is really high, not when it's really low. Because when it's really low, it's just a bad situation for everybody. Versus when the stock's really expensive, you have to dilute very few shareholders and you can get some big dollars. Let's put it that way, okay? So if we go ahead and look at CCL stock, it's now up 18%. Ah, damn it, I keep getting distracted. That's not CCL stock, okay? So how many shares of CCL stock do I have? I have over 2,600 shares of Carnival Cruise Line stock. So quite a few shares, needless to say, across my accounts. Over 2,600 shares. I think it's pretty dang close to 2,700 shares. And I know a lot of people want to know, will I buy more? Will I buy more? What is kind of my overall opinion on Carnival Cruise Line? Somebody that still owns, you know, let's say 2,600, 2,700 shares right now. And I will say maybe I'll buy more, but ideally under $7, okay? If I can get under 7, maybe. It's still not 100%. It's like, maybe, okay? And usually, you guys know me, if I get to buy a stock that I was buying in the past for a much cheaper price, I'm like all in. I'm like, give me those shares, give me those shares. It's a little different with Carnival Cruise Line because there's the risk of bankruptcy, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. There is that risk, but it is a maybe I'll buy some more shares, okay? Here's why. The valuation, I gotta say, is a little bit compelling now. We're talking about a company that has a market capitalization of $5.6 billion, and you know, if the stock continues to fall, next thing you know, it's under $7, it's gonna have under a $5 billion market cap, which is, it gets to a point where it does get a little attractive from a risk-reward standpoint, okay? It does get a little attractive, even for somebody like myself that already put a lot of money in the stock and doesn't really want to buy any more. It does get a little attractive. Here's kind of my stance on things. I would say there's a 20 to 30% chance that Carnival Cruise Line, CCL, goes bankrupt, okay? Which is by far and away the highest number of any of my companies. I wouldn't even put another one of my companies at a 10% chance of going bankrupt. Carnival Cruise Line, I would put at a 20 to 30% chance. That's really high. Now you can say, well, why haven't you sold off your current Carnival shares? I would have to be like a 50-50. If it was ever at a point where it was like a 50-50 and I felt like there was like a 50% chance the company was going to go bankrupt or a 60% chance, I would sell my remaining shares, or I would have already sold my remaining shares. But in this situation, especially with the money they raised, I would say there's a 70% to 80% chance they don't go bankrupt, and a 20 to 30% chance they do go bankrupt. But there is that possibility out there, which does make me say, do I want to throw more money at this one if there's that high of a probability of this company going bankrupt, okay? But here's the other situation with this stock. I want to talk about two things here that are very important. Some folks are thinking, can this stock get back to a place where it's $50, $60, $70 within the next year or two? And I would say absolutely not. I think that's a bit of a pipe dream. If you think this stock in let's say the next 2 or 3 years, let's not even say the next year or two, let's say in the next 2 or 3 years, if you think this stock's going to get to $50, $60, $70, I think you're honestly dreaming, okay? Now, the way you should be looking at this stock is either they're going to make it out to the other side and they will become a successful company and a very profitable company again, or they're not going to make it at all. It's one of two things, okay? It's definitely one of two things, and that's a great point. Somebody, CCL Bull, he brought up that in the Discord chat in the private group the other night. He's like, this is one of two ways. They're either going to go bankrupt and it's going to $0, or, his opinion, I think, was like it's going to $50 or $60 again. I don't personally think it's going to those prices anytime soon. However, if they can get through this, big if they can get through this to the other side, then I believe there's definitely a very real possibility this will be a $20 to $30 stock within the next 2 to 3 years. Within the next 2 to 3 years. Not talking like 5, 10 years from now. No, within the next 2 to 3 years, this can be a $20 to $30 stock. But they do have to obviously get through this. So there's no way I can foresee, in my opinion, that this company makes it through this mess short term and stays at a $5 to, let's say, $15 range 2 to 3 years from now. It's either they're going to make it through, they're going to get back to big profitability again over the next few years, and things will be onward and upward and things will be looking great, or they're going bankrupt. It's either or. There's no middle ground with Carnival Cruise Line stock, in my personal opinion. Okay, so here's the thing with Carnival Cruise Line. If you want to buy this stock, just understand the risk. Understand that there's a 20 to 30% chance this company can go bankrupt. And I think if you can deal with that, and it's money that you're willing to risk out there, and you're like, you know what, I'm willing to take that risk, I can understand that. But keep in mind, this isn't an Amazon stock. There's pretty much a 0% chance Amazon goes bankrupt. I would literally put that out there. 0% chance Amazon stock goes bankrupt. But you know what? Also, there's a 0% chance? There's a 0% chance that Amazon stock is going to 3x or 4x in the next 2 or 3 years. Carnival Cruise Line has a legit opportunity to 3x or 4x their stock, but they also have a legit shot at going bankrupt, okay? So I think with this type of stock, you just got to understand the risk. You've got to fully contemplate this before you put money in it, and you've got to almost this is a different situation than buying Apple stock, and it goes down some and you buy some more and it's like, oh, Apple's a great company, I understand the business model, blah, blah, blah. This is a different situation. This is more like you put money in and you just forget about it. You forget about it, and you're like, whatever happens, happens. This stock's going to $0, and I just lost all my money I put in. I put my 10,000 bucks I'm willing to risk in it, or my $1,000. It's either going to that, or it's going to be, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 in a few years from now. It's one of those two scenarios. There's no in between for Carnival Cruise Line. Okay, so I just think you got to look at it very different if you're somebody out there that's willing to take that risk. I'm willing to continue to hold my shares. If it goes to $0 and they can't make it through this, that sucks, but with over $6 billion, I think they should be able to get through this short-term mess. I think they should be able to make it out to the other side. And I think eventually people are going to want to take vacations again, are going to want to take cruises. I don't think everybody wants to be stuck in their house. I don't think this is such an enjoyable thing for most folks out there. Maybe someone like myself that doesn't really care to go on vacation, but most folks, I bet you they can't wait to get out of the house and go on vacation. And no matter where you go on vacation, you're around a lot of people. You come to my city, Las Vegas, you're around a lot of people. So eventually people are just going to have to deal with the fact that they're going to be around other people, and there's a possibility of getting sick. And I honestly think like most 20 to 50-year-olds don't even care about the Roni. I'll be completely honest. Like, I think most of them, if they were allowed to go to restaurants and actually do things right now, I think they would. The government had to step in and say, no, you can't go to that business. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. But I think a lot of folks are when things kind of clear up, I think a lot of folks are going to be dying to go on vacation and do things like that, because it's only one life, and you can stay in your house only so long. So that's my opinion on it. Understand the risk with this stock. I might buy some more. We'll see. Okay. Thank you for watching and have a great day.